I'm not the kind of guy who blows up over small things. I let a lot slide, maybe too much, but something about that night hit different. Maybe it was the way she smiled when her phone buzzed. Maybe it was the way she fixed her hair and sprayed that perfume she only ever used on special occasions, but mostly it was the way she looked me in the eye as I asked her to stay. "Please," I said quietly, "can we just have one night for us?" It had been a rough couple of weeks. Work stress, bills piling up, and we hadn't really connected in a long time. I thought maybe we could cook dinner together, open a bottle of wine, talk about us like we used to, but instead, she adjusted her earring, grabbed her clutch and said, "It's just a party. It's important to him." Him, her boss. That name, Ethan, had started appearing more and more. Not in obvious ways, just little mentions. Ethan asked me to handle the report. Ethan said I was a lifesaver today. Ethan might drop by the meeting. And now Ethan was throwing a party, and she had to be there. On a night I was begging her to stay. I didn't fight. I didn't raise my voice. I just stopped talking. When the front door closed behind her, the silence felt heavy, like the air had been sucked out of the room. I sat at the dinner table alone, her plate untouched across from me. The candles burned all the way down. That was night one. By the second day, she hadn't texted me once. I didn't text her either. It wasn't about pride. I just didn't know what to say. How do you compete with someone who seems to be stealing your wife piece by piece while smiling in a suit? She came home the next afternoon, not drunk, not messy, but different. Like her mind was still somewhere else. Like she was dragging some invisible string of guilt behind her, trying to pretend it wasn't there. "Hey," I said, as calm as I could manage. "Hey," she replied. No kiss, no hug. No sorry I left. I asked, "Did you have fun?" She looked at me like I just asked the weather on Mars. "Yeah, it was fine." She moved to the bedroom, took off her heels, and started scrolling on her phone. That was it. No mention of me. No curiosity about what I did while she was gone. No attempt to bridge the space between us. Just that damn phone and a smirk that disappeared when she saw me watching her. I slept on the couch that night. Day 3, she barely spoke a word. Made her coffee. Went to work. No goodbye kiss. No love you. Just keys jingling and the door clicking shut behind her. But that night, everything changed. I opened her laptop while she showered. I know it's wrong, but something inside me snapped. I needed to know what was really going on. The silence wasn't just absence. It was hiding something. I expected maybe a message or two, but what I found, my hands went cold. A folder on her desktop labeled Event Photos. Inside, dozens of pictures from the party, most of them harmless. People mingling, laughing, toasting drinks. But then a series of shots. Her and Ethan close, too close. One photo froze me. His hand on her lower back, lips grazing her ear as she laughed. Another with her hand on his chest. Her face glowing in a way I hadn't seen in months. Then a video, a short clip, maybe 10 seconds, but it was enough. He said, "We should get out of here." She looked into the camera, not realizing it was filming, and whispered, "I thought you'd never ask." She never mentioned staying late. She never mentioned leaving the party. That was 3 days ago. 3 days of silence. 3 days since I stopped being her husband in her eyes, whether she admits it or not. And now I sit here wondering, do I confront her? Do I pretend I don't know? Because deep down, I think this is just the beginning. I didn't sleep after finding that video. My brain just kept replaying her voice. Soft, teasing, flirtatious. The way she said, "I thought you'd never ask." It wasn't just casual. It was familiar. Like this wasn't the first time. Like there had been other whispered conversations, other meetings, maybe other nights. I never even suspected. The next morning, she acted as if nothing had happened. Made toast. Stood at the kitchen counter scrolling Instagram. Sipping her coffee. She even hummed while tying her hair back. Like everything in her world was fine. And I realized something. She had no clue I knew. No guilt, no shame, no fear. That hit harder than anything else. It meant she felt safe lying to me. I tried to act normal, too. I asked if she wanted to go to the movies that night, something we hadn't done in months. She looked surprised for half a second, maybe even uncomfortable, but then said, "I already made plans with the girls. Maybe tomorrow." No explanation, no details, just that automatic answer and the tight smile she gives when she's holding something back. I nodded and smiled like a fool, but I was already making my own plans. Around 9 p.m., I quietly grabbed my keys, slipped out the back door, and drove around the corner. I parked where I could see the house. I didn't know exactly what I was looking for. Maybe confirmation, maybe denial, but I sat there like some washed-up detective, just watching the house with my headlights off. My throat hardened. At 9:42, her car pulled out of the driveway. She wasn't dressed for a girl's night. No oversized sweater, no flats. She was in that sleek black dress, the one she bought a few months ago and said she was saving for something special. Her lipstick was darker than usual, and she was wearing heels so high she had to hold onto the door frame for balance. I didn't follow. Couldn't. Something stopped me. Maybe fear of what I'd see. Maybe fear I'd do something I'd regret. So instead, I waited. An hour passed, then another. At 12:14, I pulled back into the driveway and walked into a house that felt colder than ever. I sat on the edge of our bed, staring at the framed photo from our honeymoon in Maui. We were both laughing in that picture, carefree and stupid in love. That version of us didn't exist anymore. Around 1:20 a.m., she walked through the door. Quiet, careful, like someone returning to a place they didn't belong. I stayed still, pretending to sleep. She came into the bedroom, set her phone down on the dresser, kicked off her shoes, and tiptoed to the bathroom. That's when I heard it. Her phone buzzed. One buzz, then another, then a third. She hadn't locked it. I turned my head slightly and saw the screen light up in the dark. "Ethan, that thing you whispered in my ear. I'm still thinking about it. Ethan, let me know when you're home safe. Tonight was everything. Ethan, next time, stay the night." I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just lay there, heart pounding in my ears. When she came out of the bathroom, she climbed into bed without a word, her back to me, her breathing steady like nothing happened. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. She didn't care if I knew. She was gone. Not physically, but emotionally completely gone. She had handed herself over to someone else. And all I was now was an obstacle. A husband in name only. But I wasn't ready to disappear quietly. No, I was going to get proof. I was going to find out everything. Because this wasn't just betrayal. This was a stranger sleeping beside me in my own bed. And the scariest part? I still loved her. The next few days blurred into each other, like watching your life through fogged glass. She moved around the house like everything was normal, asking if I wanted coffee, making comments about work, even laughing at something on TV while sitting next to me on the couch. It was surreal. I wanted to scream, shake her, ask her who the hell she thought she was fooling. But I didn't, couldn't. I was still playing the part. Still the loyal husband who pretended not to notice that his wife's perfume lingered longer when she came home late, that her smiles weren't for me anymore. But inside I was burning. I started gathering evidence. Not out of revenge, at least not then. I just needed truth. I couldn't live in that gray zone anymore. So, I did what any broken man trying to hold on to his sanity would do. I called a private investigator, a guy named Randall. Found him through a recommendation in a men's support group I joined anonymously. He didn't ask many questions, just told me his rate, asked for her schedule, and said he'd get back to me. While he did his thing, I started mine. One night, while she was in the shower, I plugged a flash drive into her laptop. I had installed a simple backup program earlier, and it had quietly saved copies of her recent messages, documents, and synced media. I didn't even feel guilt. Not anymore. Not when she was texting her boss at 1 a.m. and coming home in dresses I'd never seen her leave in. I opened the folder on my own computer and began to read. There were emails, dozens of them, not from her work account. She was smarter than that. These came from a private email under the name Bellarosa849. Cute, hidden, but not good enough. She and Ethan had been emailing for months. At first, it was tame. Jokes, memes, the occasional comment about how work would be hell without you. But then it shifted gradually, like watching a matchstick ignite in slow motion. One email stood out. I can't stop thinking about that night after the conference. I've never felt that alive with anyone, not even with my husband. I don't know what to do with that, but I know I want more. And Ethan's reply, then stop pretending. He's not your future. I am. I stared at those words until the screen blurred. My fists clenched so hard my knuckles went white. I wanted to punch through the desk. Instead, I copied every email, every message, every photo. There weren't many photos, but the ones that existed made my stomach turn. One of them in particular was burned into my brain. Her sitting on his lap, a glass of champagne in her hand, her head thrown back in laughter while his hand rested on her thigh. She looked happy, truly deeply happy. Not the kind of smile you fake. Not the kind you give your husband when you're already halfway gone. The next day, Randall called. He didn't even need to say much. Just, you were right. I've got what you need. We met at a diner out on the edge of town. He handed me an envelope and a flash drive, then slid into the booth opposite me. Your wife's been careful, he said, but not careful enough. I followed her 3 nights. She met him all 3 different spots each time. Never the same hotel. Hotel. That word hit me like a brick to the face. She had crossed the final line. I took the flash drive and went home, locked myself in my home office, and plugged it in. There were time-stamped photos. Her getting out of his car, her checking into a hotel under her maiden name, him arriving 15 minutes later, them entering the same room, her leaving hours later, hair messy, makeup smudged, heels in hand. I had everything. Concrete proof. Not suspicion, not doubt. Cold, brutal truth. And the worst part wasn't even what she did. It was that she never thought I'd find out. She trusted me to stay stupid, stay faithful, stay quiet. But now I had proof. I had the truth. And for the first time in weeks, the silence inside me cracked. It wasn't grief anymore. It was rage. I didn't confront her immediately. That would have been too easy, too raw. And I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of watching me break. No, this needed to be calculated. I had spent weeks being silent, sitting on the couch while she scrolled through Instagram like nothing was wrong. I cooked dinners she didn't eat, asked questions she barely answered, and listened to lies wrapped in smiles. She didn't think I had it in me to fight back. She was wrong. That night, I didn't go to bed when she did. I stayed in my office, staring at the flash drive, going over every detail again like I was memorizing a crime scene. I backed up everything, printed some of the emails, highlighted dates, matched them to my calendar. I found receipts in her purse days later for dinners she claimed were client meetings. I lined it all up like puzzle pieces, and the picture that formed was hideous. I had lost my wife long before that boss's party. The party wasn't the beginning. It was just when she stopped pretending to care what I thought. The next morning, I watched her pack for a work retreat. She was humming again, tossing lingerie into a small overnight bag. I didn't say a word, just sat there at the kitchen counter, watching her zip it shut. She turned to me and said, "Don't wait up. I'll probably be exhausted tomorrow." I nodded. "Sure." She smiled, leaned down, and kissed my cheek like nothing was broken. Then she walked out the door. I waited an hour before I left. I didn't follow her this time. I didn't need to. I went to the hotel ahead of her, checked into a room down the hall, and waited. Randall had already told me which room she and Ethan had used the last 2 times. When I saw her car pull into the parking lot and him step out to greet her with a hug that lasted too long, I clenched my fists, fighting every instinct to charge across the lot and punch him in the throat. But I stayed calm. I watched, waited, documented. They went in. 2 hours passed. At midnight, I knocked on their door. Silence. Then shuffling. Then her voice, low and startled. "Who is it?" I didn't answer. She opened the door slightly, and the moment her eyes met mine, everything in her face changed. Her mouth dropped open, her eyes filled with panic, guilt, shame, and then something else. Anger, like I was the one violating her privacy. "What are you doing here?" she stammered. I didn't respond. I held up the folder. This is everything you didn't tell me. Ethan appeared behind her, shirtless, looking confused. Is this your husband? I turned to him. You must be Ethan. Heard a lot about you. He stepped forward, puffing out his chest. You need to leave, man. This isn't the place. Shut up, I snapped, turning back to her. You had a choice. I asked you to stay. I asked you to fix things and you chose him. I held up the folder again. This is your choice, documented from start to finish. Please, let's talk about this, she said quickly, stepping into the hallway, closing the door behind her. I laughed, actually laughed. Now you want to talk? She reached for my arm, but I pulled away. Don't touch me. I gave you everything. My time, my loyalty, my trust. And you gave him your body, your heart, your lies. And worst of all, you thought I'd never find out. Her voice cracked. I didn't mean for it to get this far. But it did. Didn't it? I said coldly. And now it's over. I walked away, leaving her standing barefoot in a hallway outside a hotel room she never should have entered. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. That night, I didn't go home. I didn't even cry. I drove until sunrise and checked into a small Airbnb near the lake. I watched the water shimmer through the window, felt the chill in the air, and for the first time in weeks, maybe months, I felt something like peace. But peace is a fragile thing because when I turned my phone back on, I had 8 missed calls from her and 1 voicemail that changed everything. I didn't listen to her message right away. I stared at my phone for a long time, just watching the little notification like it might explode in my hand. 8 missed calls, 1 voicemail, no texts. Not a single "I'm sorry" or "please come back." Just silence followed by that 1 voice message, like it was supposed to patch the hole she ripped through our life. Eventually, I pressed play and held the phone to my ear. Her voice came through shaky, breathless, almost like she'd been crying, but I couldn't tell if it was real or performance. Hey, I don't know where you went, but please don't do anything crazy. I messed up. Okay? I know I did. I wasn't planning for things to happen this way. Ethan made me feel seen, and I got caught up. I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't want to lose everything. But now I think I might have already lost you. I never wanted to hurt you. I need you to believe that. And then, just as she was about to hang up, she whispered something she didn't mean to say out loud. I should have deleted the recordings. I froze. My heart literally skipped a beat. I replayed it. I should have deleted the recordings. Recordings. I sat up straight, adrenaline rushing through my veins like ice water. She hadn't mentioned texts or emails or photos. She mentioned recordings, plural. That meant audio, maybe video. That meant there was something even worse, something I hadn't found yet. I opened my laptop, inserted the flash drive Randall had given me again, and began digging. I hadn't explored every file the night he gave it to me, just the images and the timestamped logs. But buried in one of the subfolders was a collection of audio files labeled by date and time. I clicked the first one. Static, then voices. Her voice, laughing. He still thinks I'm going to some girl's weekend. He offered to pack snacks for me. Ethan replied, chuckling. You married the softest man on earth. That's why he never saw this coming. She laughed again, that full, open laugh I hadn't heard in years. My skin went cold. I clicked another file. This one was different, muffled like it was recorded from a distance, probably through a hotel hallway vent. I heard her moaning his name. I heard him telling her what he wanted to do to her. I heard my wife, say something that shattered me in a way nothing else had. This is the only place I feel like I matter. I stopped the audio. I slammed the laptop shut and pushed it across the table like it was on fire. I felt sick, nauseous, like the floor was moving underneath me. And then I realized something else. She hadn't said she was sorry for what she did. She was only sorry that I found out. I drove home the next morning, silent and cold. I didn't even unpack, just walked in, dropped my keys on the table, and stared at the woman sitting on the couch like nothing had happened. She stood up quickly, startled, trying to put on that fake, soft look she always used when she knew she was wrong. You came back, she said quietly. I nodded. Yeah. She walked toward me slowly. I don't know what to say, but if you give me a chance to explain. No. I cut her off. Don't explain. I heard enough. Her eyes darted. You listened to it? All of it. She crumbled into tears, reaching for me, but I stepped back. Don't. Please don't touch me. You were supposed to be my partner, my best friend. You were supposed to love me. Not just when it was convenient. Not just when you needed someone to bring in the groceries or fix the leaking sink. I didn't mean to fall for him, she said through sobs. It just happened. No, I said firmly. You chose it. Every lie, every hotel, every text you deleted, and every night you looked me in the eyes and pretended you were mine. You chose him over and over again. We stood in silence for a long time. I'll move out, I finally said. You can have this place. Her mouth fell open. What? No, wait, we can fix this. Please don't just leave. Let's go to therapy. Please. I shook my head slowly. You can't fix what you killed. And then I turned and walked into the bedroom to pack a bag. Not just because I needed space, but because I needed to remember who I was before she turned me into a ghost of myself. But just as I zipped the suitcase, I heard a knock at the front door. When I walked back into the hallway, she was frozen, pale, staring at the man standing outside. It wasn't Ethan. It was someone I hadn't seen in years, and he looked furious. At first, I didn't recognize him. I stood a few feet behind her, watching through the narrow space between her shoulder and the door frame. He was tall, built like a guy who spent his evenings throwing punches into a gym bag, not filling out spreadsheets. His jaw was clenched, his arms crossed, and his stare locked on her like a predator spotting the one animal in the pack that limped. Then I realized who it was. Cameron, her ex. The one she told me never mattered. The one she said cheated on her and broke her heart back in college. The one she once described as a mistake I never want to relive. And yet here he was in our doorway, breathing like he'd run 5 blocks to get here, fists twitching like he wasn't sure if he wanted to yell, cry, or throw someone through a wall. She didn't say a word, just stared, lips parted, her body stiff as if her skeleton had turned to ice. I told you to delete everything, he said. His voice was low, calm, dangerous. What are you talking about? I asked, stepping forward. Cameron's eyes flicked to me, then back to her. So, he doesn't know everything. She turned to me, panic now fully visible across her face. Please don't listen to him. He's just here to start drama. Oh, I'm here to do a hell of a lot more than that, he snapped, stepping inside. I didn't stop him. I wanted answers, too. I was done being the guy who sat quietly while secrets bloomed like mold around me. I was with her long before your boss came into the picture, he said, locking eyes with me. We reconnected a year ago. She told me she wasn't happy, that you didn't satisfy her, that she wanted to feel alive again. I believed her. Hell, I helped her lie to you. We had a thing. It wasn't supposed to last. But then she kept coming back. I stared at her. She was shaking her head in disbelief, tears falling silently down her cheeks. I didn't mean for it to turn into anything, she muttered. It was just, I was lonely. You were married, I growled. And screwing 2 men behind your husband's back, Cameron added bitterly. Don't forget that part. I felt the walls closing in. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear my own thoughts. This wasn't just infidelity. It was a lifestyle, a hidden existence. She had made a fool out of me in every way possible. She told me she was leaving you, Cameron continued, eyes narrowing. Said she transferred part of your savings to a private account, that she was going to start over with me. That's the only reason I came here. I wanted to make sure she really did it. I turned to her, stunned. What the hell is he talking about? She shook her head desperately. I didn't take anything, I swear. I thought about it, but I didn't go through with it. I ran to my desk and opened my banking app. My hands were shaking so badly, I mistyped the password twice. On the 3rd attempt, I got in. $17,600 missing. Gone. I turned slowly, the phone still glowing in my hand. Where is it? She broke down, falling to her knees, sobbing like her lungs were collapsing. I didn't spend it, I swear. I transferred it to a new account to get away. I was going to use it for a deposit on a new apartment. I was going to tell you. I couldn't face you. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had been sleeping next to a thief, a liar, a woman who was planning an escape route while I was cooking her breakfast and asking how her meetings went. Cameron shook his head and muttered, "You're unbelievable," then looked at me. For what it's worth, I didn't know she was still with you when we reconnected. She said you were separated. When I found out, I cut things off. Then she came crawling back again, and I let her. He turned and walked out the door, leaving silence in his wake. She sat on the floor crying, begging me to believe that it wasn't what it looked like, that she was broken, that she made a mistake, that she never wanted to hurt me. But it was what it looked like, and much, much worse. I didn't yell. I didn't even cry. I calmly walked to the bedroom, zipped up my suitcase, and headed for the front door. She followed me, begging, wailing now, her voice cracking like glass. "Don't go, please. I'll give everything back. I'll go to therapy. I'll tell everyone the truth." I turned back one last time, met her eyes, and said the most honest thing I'd said in weeks. "I don't care what you do, because you stopped being my wife the moment you looked me in the eye and lied, and did it again the next day." I closed the door behind me, but as I stepped off the porch, I realized I wasn't done. Not yet, because if she thought this was over, she had no idea what was coming next. The house looked smaller in the rearview mirror, duller, like all the color had drained out the moment I walked away. Maybe it wasn't the house. It was me. Or maybe it was never real to begin with. All the nights we curled up watching movies, the dinners I made, the notes I left in her lunchbox. It all felt like a performance now. And I was the only one in the audience. She'd been writing a different script the whole time, and I was done playing the fool. I checked into a long-term rental, a furnished condo downtown with a view of the city skyline. Cold, sterile, unfamiliar. Perfect. I needed unfamiliar. I needed something that didn't carry the scent of lies in the curtains and betrayal in the bedsheets. But I didn't go silent. I called my bank first. I reported the transaction. The manager flagged it immediately and locked the account she'd moved the money to. It was under her maiden name. Of course, it was. She really thought I wouldn't notice 17 grand missing or that I'd never connect the dots once everything else unraveled. I hired a lawyer next, not one of those gentle, let's mediate types. I wanted someone who specialized in scorched earth divorces. A woman named Denise Weber, sharp as razors and known for turning cheaters into courtroom punching bags. When I showed her the files, the messages, the emails, and especially the bank transfer, she smiled. "You're going to be just fine," she said. She, on the other hand, is screwed. We filed for divorce within 48 hours. I blocked her number. I sent a single email letting her know the process had begun and that my attorney would be handling all further contact. Then I shut off. No calls, no texts, no more listening to her cry on voicemails or watching her name pop up at 3 a.m. like a ghost trying to haunt my peace. But she didn't stop. She showed up at my building twice. The first time, she buzzed the front desk and begged them to let her up. I told them to deny entry. The second time, she waited in the parking garage. I was coming back from a late grocery run when I saw her standing by my spot, arms wrapped around herself, eyes puffy, lips trembling. She walked toward me like some tragic soap opera character. "Please," she whispered, "just give me 5 minutes." I held up my phone and pointed to the camera overhead. "You're trespassing. I'm not playing anymore." She looked shattered. "I didn't even sleep with Cameron after we got back in touch," she blurted. "It was emotional at first. I was just lost." "You weren't lost," I replied coldly. "You were looking, and you found exactly what you wanted." Then I turned and walked away again, but she followed me to the elevator. I pressed the button, watching the numbers light up. She stood behind me in silence, and then she dropped the last bomb I never saw coming. "I'm pregnant." I didn't move. I didn't even flinch. I just stared straight ahead. "You're lying," I said flatly. "I'm not," she insisted, her voice cracking. I just found out. I don't know who. She stopped herself. I mean, I think. I finally turned to face her. You don't know who the father is? I asked. She didn't answer. The elevator opened. I stepped in. She didn't follow. As the doors closed, I looked at her one final time. You don't get to blow up my life and then drag me back in with some half-baked maybe baby story. Get a test. Get a lawyer. I'll get the truth. That's all I care about now. Back in the condo, I poured myself a drink with hands that trembled. Not from sadness, not even from anger anymore, but from the sheer weight of what she tried to pull. She thought the pregnancy card would break me, that it would bring me back to that house, to that bed, to her. She didn't understand. The man I was before, he's gone. And the man I am now, he's building something stronger with the truth as foundation and not a trace of her in it. But she wasn't done yet. Not even close. Because a week later, I got a call from someone I hadn't heard from in 10 years. Her sister. And what she told me blew this entire story wide open. Her sister, Rachel, had always been distant with me. We got along well enough during holidays or birthdays, but we were never close. So, when I saw her name flash across my phone screen a week after that parking garage confrontation, I almost didn't answer. But something told me I needed to. She didn't waste time. I'm not calling to defend her, she said, her voice calm but firm. I just thought you deserved to know everything, and she'll never tell you. There was a pause. I didn't interrupt. She's been doing this for years. You weren't the first. Ethan wasn't the first either. She had something with a coworker 2 years ago. I only found out because he called me when she blocked him after it ended. She told me it was emotional, but I've seen the messages. I didn't know whether to tell you or not. But now that it's all out, she's spiraling, and you deserve the whole picture before she tries to pull you into it again. I sat in silence, the phone warm in my hand. I wasn't surprised. Maybe somewhere deep inside, I had always known the woman I married had cracks. But I thought I was the glue. I thought loving her hard enough, being there always, would be enough. It wasn't. Rachel kept talking, told me how their mother had enabled her behavior since they were teenagers. How lying, manipulating, and getting away with things was her survival instinct. I know you cared about her, Rachel said, her voice softening, but you were never her partner. You were her lifeline, and when she found someone new to pull from, she let you drown. The words hurt, but they were true. And truth, even when it burns, clears the air. After we hung up, I went for a walk. The city was glowing in that warm golden hour haze. Kids played in the park. Dogs chased frisbees. I passed a couple laughing over iced coffee and didn't feel envy. I felt nothing. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't aching. I wasn't carrying the weight of suspicion, shame, or second-guessing myself. I was just me. I went back to the condo and opened the email from the lab. The paternity results were in. 0% probability of paternity. I smiled. It wasn't mine. Of course, it wasn't. And still, some small part of me, some leftover echo of the man who once believed her, had needed to see that proof in black and white. I forwarded the results to Denise, my lawyer, and made a single note. Let's finalize this. A few weeks later, I stood outside the courthouse with the finalized papers in my hand. No bitterness, no rage, just closure. Clean, legal, irrevocable. She tried to reach out one more time, sent me a handwritten letter with lines like, "You'll always be my greatest love, and maybe we were meant for a different lifetime." I didn't respond. Instead, I walked into a quiet bookstore later that day, bought a novel I'd been meaning to read for years, and sat in a little coffee shop by the window. I read, I breathed, I existed without needing to explain myself to anyone. Months passed, and then life surprised me. A woman named Claire moved into the condo next to mine. She worked in marketing, loved classic films, and made horrible puns when nervous. We started with small talk in the hallway, then coffee, then dinners. No expectations, no games. She knew I was divorced. I told her everything by the third date. She listened, not with pity, but with understanding. Her eyes didn't widen. She didn't recoil. She said, "You've been through hell. I'm not here to fix that, but I'd love to be part of what comes next. I don't believe in fairy tales anymore, but I do believe in healing, in honesty, in peace. And sometimes peace looks like two people sharing silence on a balcony, watching the city lights flicker and knowing that the past may still echo, but it doesn't own you anymore. I lost a liar, but I found myself. And maybe that was the whole point.